I want to know what it is, but then I also want to know what was going on in your life that led you to this strategy that now you're just like, this is so amazing. I need to teach it to other people.
Strategy is just three pillars. It's scheduling, delegation, and mindset. And I didn't even realize it was an official strategy till a few years ago because I was just so good at the scheduling piece. I was like, well, but everybody is, surely.
Oh, sure, right.
So when I realized that actually, if I had to break it down, I had to explain it to some of my clients, this is how you fit everything in during the day. I was like, oh, wow. The calendar part, the to-do list part, both of those fall under scheduling. And I am leaning very hard on both of those. Now, at the same time, with 5 kids, I cannot do everything around the house and the homeschooling and the business and the cooking from scratch.
Oh, wait. Oh my God. So wait, you're a homeschooling mom who also cooks everything from scratch. Do you have chickens by any chance?
Only when the neighbor's chickens get into our yard accidentally.
Okay.
They're not mine.
Welcome to Curveball. I'm Heather Campbell, and I am so excited to introduce you to today's guest, Alyssa Wolff. She is living proof you can create something extraordinary even when life feels like pure chaos. She's a work-at-home mom, not of 1, not of 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 children, which is a massive family by today's standards. She didn't even start her business until after she had all her kids. Alyssa, you crazy. When life throws her a curveball, Alyssa doesn't freeze. She feels all the feelings, gets it down on paper, and maps out a way forward. I'm so excited to learn more about your method. It's a strategy that helps her turn life's curveballs into stepping stones, and she's now showing other moms how to do the same. Alyssa, welcome to Curveball.
Thank you, Heather.
I want to start with your strategy. I want to know what it is, but then I also want to know what was going on in your life that led you to this strategy that now you're just like, this is so amazing. I need to teach it to other people.
Strategy is just 3 pillars. It's scheduling, delegation, and mindset. And I didn't even realize it was an official strategy till a few years ago because I was just so good at the scheduling piece. I was like, well, but everybody is, surely.
Oh, sure, right.
So when I realized that actually, if I had to break it down, I had to explain it to some of my clients, this is how you fit everything in during the day. I was like, oh, wow. The calendar part, the to-do list part, both of those fall under scheduling. And I am leaning very hard on both of those. Now, at the same time, with 5 kids, I cannot do everything around the house and the homeschooling and the business and the cooking from scratch.
Oh, wait. Oh my God. So wait, you're a homeschooling mom who also cooks everything from scratch. Do you have chickens by any chance?
Only when the neighbor's chickens get into our yard accidentally.
Okay.
They're not mine.
Okay, good. So at least, wow, that's amazing. So then you're like, when you say work at home, like mom, you're also like that homemaker and also working at the same time.
Yes.
And making food from scratch. That's amazing. And I commend you. That is so good and so healthy and so amazing for your kids. Some of my favorite memories with my mom, because I'm from a big family, is cooking with her in the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's so fun. And I think such a good skill for every kid to have.
And it's just part of the family bonding and memories. You know,
Yeah,
it's
totally.
like, oh, I love mom's favorite XYZ. And can you make this for my birthday? Pretty, please.
Oh, that's so awesome. What's your specialty?
I don't know that I personally have a specialty. I don't care for cooking that much. So I just get as good as I need to for everyone to like the meals and me to not take too much time.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny. I love that. Okay. So we have scheduling, delegation, and then what was the third component, the third pillar?
Mindset. Because you have to actually believe that everything's going to fit in and work for you. If you're just in, well, I don't know, I have to put up with this. You're not actually going to find the concrete changes you can make that let you like your life.
Well, do you ever work with people like me who put things on their calendar and then just do not honor them when they're on the calendar? Which means to me, like, I just think that I have ADHD too. Like, I was diagnosed very late in life. And so I started to start working with because I would just be like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I get on top of my schedule? And then I realized, oh, you need to like block out time. And then so I have like plan. But I've really had to change the way that I manage my schedule to make me far more effective. But I totally get that. Like, and one of my pet peeves too is when people are like, oh, I'm too busy. I can't do this. I'm just like, you know what? We all have the same. That is one of the things that's level in this crazy world, is that we all have the same amount of time. So you had mentioned in our pre-interview that you were like always a very organized person. And so scheduling came easy to you. But talk to me a little bit about how you came up with these three pillars. What was going on in your life or business where I created this sort of formal process that then has become a formal process that then I could actually share with other people?
I was just going along trying to simplify and de-stress the lives of other mothers who had a business. And that's when it was, okay, how do I actually distill this into a signature framework? Because I'm just like, I don't know, it feels like it's all over the place. Oh, well, no, actually, these things can fall into buckets. That's where the mindset and scheduling and delegation came.
I love a good bucket, because I always say, like, my brain is like an episode of Hoarders at the beginning of the show, right? And I attract a lot of ADHD people into my community because I have really good, for years and years, for decades, really my whole life, I was undiagnosed. So I have a really amazing systems and ways to sort things into buckets. So then can you share a time when using the strategy helped you out of a particularly tough situation?
Sure. Well, like this school year, because my daughters are farther into the high school process, they're needing to deal with their college prep. So college courses and
Oh,
club
yeah.
tests
Oh, and
and
by the way, her
ACTs.
children are also gifted.
Yeah.
I just have to say, like, you're the full. I might tell your husband, can I have Alyssa's hand in marriage? You guys clearly have something really good going on. That's amazing. So, okay. So your kids are working for their college prep. I'm so sorry. I'm just so proud of
No,
you.
that's okay. So I'm like, shoot, this threw my nice little homeschool routine for a loop, because I'm used to saying, okay, you're in high school, independent work, I'll grade your tests, you take care of your homework grading. Oh, wait, college courses now? Mom gets to research the stuff, figure out what you need to prep for it, go buy all the resources, drive you to the places. Like, you are spoiling my wonderful Unbusy life here.
Yeah. So then how did you put this into practice then?
So then making a plan always calms me down. So like, all right, what does my new schedule have to be? Clearly, I cannot keep to the old schedule. What am I going to have to do when it's test day? Do I have an approximate frequency? And it's like, okay, it'll be about once a month. Okay. What is the test day plan going to be? When do I need to leave? How do I have to fiddle with my to-do list? I really don't want to have to take an entire day off of work when it's a weekday. My husband's like, I have a laptop bag. You could take a laptop and work while she's taking the test. Like, that would solve everything. Thank you.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
So now we delegate the other teen who's not taking the test since they're on different days. You watch your siblings. Here is your list of what needs to happen while mommy is gone.
Oh, I love this. Right.
I work on the laptop. Make sure those are no internet tasks. So I'm not connected to anybody's Wi-Fi or worrying about that. Come home, download all my files. That's good. And then I know that I'm probably going to have to, on the mindset side, spend a little extra time self-care, binging podcasts, that kind of a thing. Because to me, it was more busy to have to drive out someplace, dealing with paying for tests and interfacing with people and entering scores and all of that. And then re-entry into the workday and the homeschooling day.
Right. I think about how they say if you remove yourself from an active task, it can take you like 20 minutes to sort of get back into the flow again. So I can imagine, I just think about that when I stop doing what I'm doing to check email. And then I'm like, oh, don't do that, And so I can only imagine, like, then you're driving someplace. That's a very, like, you're way out. That is so interesting. I also love a good plan. And I think plans get a bad rap. Why do you think that is? Like, plans,
people make
like,
it
when you say
sound
plans,
like it's
people
so
are like,
restrictive.
when I say marketing plan, people are just like, gross. No. And I'm just like, no, yes. So I try to call it a blueprint or a roadmap, but it's still a blueprint's a plan. A roadmap is also planned. It's like, so why do you think it gets such a bad rap?
I think somehow people have the notion in their heads that plan means it's fixed. You're not allowed to deviate. So now it's going to turn into a source of guilt and should and beat yourself up for failing to meet it. So of course I
Right.
don't want that.
Right. Yeah. That's total. I mean, I love that is such an amazing perspective. So you started your business after you had 5 children. And so how long have you been in business?
But it's almost 5 years
Okay. So, oh,
since
you had a newborn. So you're just like,
I
okay,
had a 7 month
this
old.
is, this is, of course, like this is the perfect time because you said something like, because I was saying, did you have an intention about having a large family? And you said, I wanted 8 to 10.
I
No.
wasn't thinking 8 to 10. I was thinking like 4 to 8.
Okay, 4 to 8. And then your husband said,
If you go for 7 to 8 kids, you're not going to be able to fit an ordinary size vehicle. Did you realize that? Oh, no, I assumed that it would be able to park in our garage. Okay, so now we need
yeah,
to look at 4 to 6.
right. I love that. I love that. And then your mom said, you said something, you're just like, you said something so beautiful. So she said, I think you'll be good at being a big family mom because,
You are so organized. And if you're organized, you can handle anything.
yeah. And so, and you were just like, okay, I'm just going to figure this out. So I'll figure out if I can really do this, which I love. So you started your business after with a newborn. That is like next level. So what made you decide to go for it? And how did you manage those early days of building something from scratch?
I always wanted a purpose beyond the family. I intended to have some sort of help the world by doing XYZ. I just didn't figure out what it was in college. So I was like, well, great. I know I want to do two things. I'll shift full time to the family aspect. But I'm still always feeling unfulfilled inside, because of
Right.
this other, what am I doing and why didn't it happen for me?
I call it the nudge.
Yeah.
You just know when you get the nudge and like the nudge just does not stop nudging. That's
Mhm.
how you know you just have to do it. I was at a point with my whole like online entrepreneurial side of my business that I was like, I have a full service agency. I only need to work with 5 or 6 clients a year. And I was like, so I could just do that. And that nudge, it just kept on nudging. It would not stop nudging. So I'm like, all right. And my whole goal in life, honestly, has always been to live without any regret. And I did not want to have what I thought was a really great idea that would help people and not bring it out to the world. Just let it sit there.
Mhm.
That was like, I couldn't, that seemed like just a bigger thing to me than actually doing the actual thing, which is not
Yeah.
nearly as scary when you start doing it.
No.
At least for me,
So,
yeah, like it wasn't nearly as scary. I mean, so I just want to reassure people like it seems bold, but it's just one step, one step, one step, one step. And then you're here 5 years later, you know, one step at a time.
yeah, I'm with the nudge driving you. Again, it's a self chosen thing. It's not as
Right.
scary.
So I want to talk to you about I guess I sort of call it like mountains to molehill strategy, right? Where you have a practice and I love this so much because this is super helpful, where you write down your feelings. I just want to, this is such an amazing, easy tactic that I think I don't want to say tactic. I want to say strategy because it's better than a tactic. And I think a strategy is implied that it becomes something that a practice, I think it's an amazing practice. How's that even better? That you're just like, you have to get everything out of your head. So tell us about this practice because I do this in a little bit of a way, but I was so interested because I feel like you're going to up level my journaling.
I was a huge journaler as a kid, but I thought it was this optional fun thing. And then when I became an entrepreneur, I realized, boy, I have mindset trash like crazy. My brain is going till 11 o'clock at night, which was 2 hours past my own bedtime, because I can't stop thinking, can't stop worrying. Like, this is not acceptable. A
Right.
lack of sleep when it's not the newborn's fault does not
Right.
fit with how I want to be living. So I realized I've got to actually let myself just vent. Where else to vent than a journal?
Right.
And then eventually I swapped. So I'm no longer journaling per se. I am walking and speaking whatever I want to. So it's like verbal journaling.
Oh, I love this verbal journal. I just love the way that sounds, verbal journal.
Because
Verbal
I wanted
journal.
more movement in the day. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
I must get my verbal journaling walk in every single workday.
Amazing. And so then once you have it out of your head, because you have this 3-step process, once you have it out of your head, then what do you do next? Because getting it out is helpful. Like I just know this just from when I learned to work with my mind. You've got to like just write down everything you want to have happen that week, and then just circle your biggest priorities. Even doing that brain dump of what do I want to have get done, and I have little categories and everything, so I have it organized for me too. But just even doing that exercise on Sundays, oh my God, my work week is absolutely so much more productive because I got it out of here. Why does that work? What's the science? Do you know what the science is behind that?
I haven't studied the science, but my bet is it's getting your brain to say, this is not actually a problem. Instead of it just spinning somehow up there, you've actually given it voice, let it all
Right.
out. Now you're like,
Yeah.
okay, it's not this vague feeling of dissatisfaction and I have no idea what I'm going to do. You
Right.
have all the puzzle pieces. Now you can tell your brain, okay, time to go to work, solve the problem.
Right. Right. So if you okay, so I say asking for a friend, but when I say that, it's really because I want to know. So I can, I have a lot of discipline around my schedule now, but there for 1,000 years, I didn't. And if you just knew the amount of the thousands of dollars I spent on like productivity coaches and really beautiful journals and planners and really gorgeous markers, because I'm like a magic marker freak. And I just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And then I was finally just like, no, like, and every time this is what I think was sort of messed up is that every time I would totally put everything into my calendar. And then when I didn't do it, it was like just sort of this, I created this scenario where I was constantly reminding myself, trying to implement a strategy that worked for somebody else. It was like, I was absolutely reminding myself, well, you messed up there. You didn't do that. You didn't do that. You did this instead. And it just created oh my God, the amount of time I would spend. And I feel like I'm a very competent person. I feel very confident in my ability. But that is one area where I would just be like, you're like a deviant. What is going on here? So I would probably be your best case study, like your best before and after story. But if someone's like listening to how I would manage my schedule and still sometimes do, it's a direct correlation with have I done my brain dump or not? And I realize when I haven't done things get way more sketch than when I do. Um, what's the beginning stage? Because scheduling again to people is just like we feel like it's misunderstood, right? So what's a good starting point for somebody?
A starting point, I think, is actually realizing this is your tool to cut through all that self guilt. Instead of saying scheduling is just should, you go back and say, but what do I actually want to do? Do I want to have a goal of 50 setups a day? Do I want timers on my phone telling me to go drink another glass of water? Do I want this other habit and this many things on my to do list? If you don't want to do them, of course you're not going to. But then,
Right.
as you found out, it creates that, I'm just so terrible cycle. So, what if you deleted all of those? There's a certain level that you yourself don't want to drink only 2 cups of water a day, probably.
Right.
You're just not at the 8 glass mark. There's a certain level of you want to get up and move around because you're going to stiffen up if you're sitting in a chair all day, but you don't actually want to go out and run 3 miles. What is
Right.
your actual set point? Put that in the calendar, in the schedule, because
Right.
then you have that connection to it. You want to do it.
Right. Oh my gosh. I just interviewed somebody this week for Curveball, and he was saying that he has this whole philosophy. You really need to understand where your starting point is. And he's think about when you're lost, you're in the airport and you're just in an airport you're not familiar with, and you go up to that map and you're desperately looking for that you are here. He's like, that is that centering point. And so you also have this. Oh, I love this so much because you also have, because you're not like this. I can tell you're an organized person. I bet you have a label maker. Oh, you don't, but I bet you make your own labels on
Just
handmade
some
paper.
masking
Yeah,
tape.
great.
No, I'm not crafty at all.
Okay. So you also have a fair amount of these processing of emotions before you take action. Why do you think that is such a crucial step? And why do you think people avoid the feeling stage, sort of the verbal journaling or the brain dump, of just writing down. I guess, can you give me, before you answer that question, can you give me an example? Because I know what brain dump means in my world. For me, I can sort of imagine what verbal journaling means for you, but talk to me just a little bit about what does like a good journaling sesh or a good like getting it out all on paper. Like what does that look like?
It's going to start with the brain dump, and then
Okay.
I'll usually expand it to bring in the emotions, maybe. Here's
Okay.
what I got done. Here's why I'm not happy about it. And free write, so free talk about
Right.
why I'm feeling frustrated. Here's what I wanted to get done. Why do I think that was important? What's bugging me? Why can't I just say, oh, never mind, let it go. It's not a problem. There's a reason why I'm not releasing it. I'm holding on to it. So we're just taking the brain dump and adding some emotional release to it and letting yourself
Right.
process. You'd probably call it venting if you had your husband or your friend.
Right. Yeah, totally. And then it's just the personal venting. So you're just like just free writing. There are no limits, right? So you can do if you want to swear and you never swear in real life, you can swear, I guess, if you wanted to in your verbal journaling. So then why do you think talk to me about processing the emotions and how this helps with that? And then why this is such an important step and why people avoid it typically.
On the go backwards order, I think people avoid it because they instinctually understand that this is going to take more time than just saying, oh, here's the fix. You should be doing XYZ. Now go put that on your to do list. That's going to be a very temporary band aid. But to
Right.
actually work through this more permanently, you do have to deal with your emotions.
Right. I love that. That is, and by getting it out too, I mean, it really does. I actually just heard the coolest thing. So when you have like a good cry, like a good emotional cry, you know, the kind where you're having like an emotional release, you get just a mass, like, you know, when you have had those, I'm such a crier too. So, but I think about the times where I've had a good cleansing cry that, you know, you're just like, oh, I am so glad I let myself go and do that. You get this massive dopamine rush afterwards, which I think is super cool because your body only releases dopamine when it really believes this is super important for us. It really wants you to pay attention to something for your survival. And I just think about how, especially as, I don't know if you ever felt as a mom, just, I remember once I fell and I broke my knee, and my kids were really, you know, probably like 8 and 12 years old. And it is immediately painful. I can totally see, and it's immediately debilitating. And I can see why, like if loan sharks, why they break your knees. It definitely sends a message. And so I just remember my kids, I just remember them because they were across the street and I was still in the garage. And so they heard me and came running back. And I was like, don't look at me. And they were like, my daughter's like, why did you knock out your front teeth? That's what she's thought. And I just said, no, I didn't want them to see me hurt. I didn't want them to see me crying because I thought it would be more upsetting to them. So, do you ever feel like as a mom, you just have to totally always keep it together? Or how do you show emotion around your kids? Or do you ever feel like I have to keep up like that mom, like I got this, you know?
Yeah, I definitely felt that. What I'm trying to do is model for them to kind of self explain a bit. I am feeling overwhelmed and stressed right now. So then try not to snap at them, but say, I am feeling overwhelmed and stressed, and I need to go walk or be by myself for a bit, or something that tells them there's a cure for this.
Oh,
So mommy's
yeah.
going to go take space for herself and she will be back. It's
Right.
a finite thing, but she's going to kind of fix and heal her own emotions right now. So that doesn't mean she needs
Right.
to withdraw and deal with this. But mommy's not going to blow up and yell and scream at you for doing your ordinary things.
Right.
Mommy will go and do this instead. So that when
Right.
they're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, maybe next time they can use words and say, I'm just feeling like there's way too much going on. I need to go color for a half an hour and then we'll come
Right.
back and do this.
Right. I remember like when my kids would, if they would get so frustrated studying, because I just sort of feel like my daughter in fourth grade math, I just remember like fractions. And then I'm just like, oh God, I'm not much better than a fourth grader. I'm a creative, better in English and math, right? And so, but she would get so frustrated. And I sort of view it like a full cup of water, right? And then we're trying to put in learning and it can't go in there because it's just already at capacity. And so we would do, so like she was in gymnastics. So we would take these and she really wanted to learn how to do a handstand. So then we would do like handstand breaks and just that little bit of just moving away from the problem. And we timed it, it'd be like 15 minutes. But that is super helpful to do too. I love that. Is your family taking applications? Because if so, I might apply. Right. So what advice would you give to moms who feel like they're drowning in responsibilities and don't even know where to start? Like, where is their first starting point?
Just go really, really tiny, really micro. What's one thing you would love to get off your plate, never do again, never, leave at 7:55 again? One small thing to focus on first. Don't worry about the whole I hate my life thing. Just one.
Right. Well, you know what? That's interesting because we didn't really talk a lot about delegating because the mom, again, a mom, like you're the one who is going to wipe down the counters. That's what I feel like my whole life in my kitchen is this. Cause I'm like, am I the only one who's allowed to wipe down the counters? Like, anyways, how do you delegate? What does delegation, how does that look in your life? Give me an example.
Well, right now, my kids are off cooking lunch for themselves because we had some leftovers in the fridge and they didn't feel like eating them. So I said, well, I provided food. There is food. Right. You are free to make something else if you would like to.
Right.
You do have to wipe down the counters and do your own dishes and put the ingredients exactly back in the cupboards where you found them.
Yeah, right.
Like, fair trade. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Totally. My mom would do that. So I have 8 brothers and sisters. And my mom would say, because of course, like there would be like, my mom was an amazing cook, but I had a brother and a sister who sort of were really picky eaters and would sort of alternate. I had a brother who I swear to God just lived on hot dogs for like years. I bet if you took his DNA, he would register as part hot dog. I swear to God. And so, but my mom would do that she's like, look, if you don't want to have, she would also do things too that she would have everything packed for lunch. And then, but if you wanted to buy lunch, you could keep the money, and which I always did. I was just like, this is a great deal. It's $7 a week or something, but I'll take it. And then she would have, but then you had that option too. So I think that that's a very empowering thing too, that settles. That is so interesting. I love this. So when you are working with your clients, what is one of the most surefire first steps that people can take where they can start to get that little bit of traction and momentum? Because I know what that feels like when you start to make a change and you're just, ooh, I want more of this, So where's a good place to start?
I have my clients start with keeping their to-do list to 3 items a day. So that means 3 for personal and 3 for business, because that will stop you in your tracks from saying, I've got this miles long to-do list. That's my personal guilt and should list. So if we get rid of that immediately, so you cannot be blaming yourself for not getting through everything. It's nope, I did do the laundry. I did make supper. I did call the doctor's office. Okay, not allowed to do anything else. You have to quit. Go be with your kids.
You have to quit. Yes.
Yes.
Why is that? I've done that too. Like I have my one big thing and then I have my next up priorities because I really need to keep things simple, because if I can just do one, and then I also have a built-in reward, which is usually a walk or a nap, depends, but it's usually something that is restorative to me in some way, but a treat. And so I really like that also helps me to have the ritual around rewarding myself. I like to set my bar so low. So that's why I think you have your one big thing that you got to knock out. And then when you knock that out, then you have next up priorities. But 2, I also like to limit it to 3, but I don't stop. So what is the reasoning behind stopping when you're finished? Because that feels odd for so many people.
It does, but we're so used to cramming too much in our lives. That's the root of your overstuffed work-life balance, of saying, I never have enough time to read. I'm too busy to play with my kids as much as I wanted. Right. If you make yourself stop, you do have the time. Right. Oh, and then are there some people who sometimes make the time and then they feel uncomfortable with the time? That's the next thing. Yeah. Okay. Why does that happen? They're so used to working because you've got decades upon decades of conditioning that say, no. There's more stuff I could be doing. I could go back to that list and grab tomorrow's priorities. It feels uncomfortable because now it's a pattern in your brain. Right. So now we might need to do some more brain dumping and emotion work on that.
Right.
to fully move through this, because otherwise it's not going to do much good for me to say, well, I am your coach and I order you to go take an hour off. Well,
right.
Yes, but if you don't actually want to and feel comfortable doing so, you won't. And then you'll go back to work, and next week you'll show up and say, I'm just burnt out. And I'll say, well, why didn't you do your self-care? Well, I didn't feel like it.
Well, I love that too, because I worked with somebody who was one of those because I thought that's what I really needed. For some reason, I don't know why. I just thought I needed really militant, like tough on me people. And then I was like, you don't need that at all. But I remember it was like her way. And then if you didn't do it, like she had this journaling prompt you would do, and there were 11 pieces to it. Like my little ADHD brain was just, and then I would sit there crying. I would feel so bad about myself. And I remember thinking, I don't feel like this. I think my body's really trying to tell me something, but I was so afraid of this person. And so it's like, but she was like that. Like, she's like, oh no, if you don't do this, you're somehow mentally weak. And that was not inspiring to me at all. And then when I remember talking with one of my students who is also a life coach. And I was telling her, I said, gosh, sometimes I put things off. Like I'll be finishing a client presentation. Oh God, I probably shouldn't say this publicly, but maybe 10 minutes. Maybe I don't know, maybe I'm pausing the screen and changing the slides like while we're on the call. We don't know. But like I remember telling her, I said, I just feel like I should have this done like 2 days before. And she's like, why? And I'm like, well, because I just feel like my clients could say, oh my God, Heather, did you just finish this presentation like 5 minutes before the call? And she's like, has that ever happened? And I'm like, no. And she's like, what did they say? She's like, oh my, I love this, like great work. And she's like, if you do good work, why does it matter when you finish it? And that was my first like entree into a whole different way of thinking. And then I just realized like I was really doing by listening to somebody else's, by trying to follow someone else's system that worked amazingly for them. It just was not working for me. And then it was just this constant reminder of how just I was not doing well in this area of life that I wanted to improve.
Yeah, it's like deconstructing productivity. But why do I have to have it done 2 days ahead of time?
Yeah. Like if it's complete and why does it matter when it's finished if it's good work? And if that's my process, which is really, I just remember taking so much, someone really seeing me and saying, oh my God, not being like, what are you doing? Like, that's terrible that you do that. Like your clients pay you thousands of dollars to work with you. It's like, and that just immediately ended that trash talk. Because when it came up, I always like to have like a counter to my brain, or that voice in my head. So it would be like, you're a professional deviant is what it would say. And I would be like, look, we do amazing work. And so why does it matter when I finish it if it's really good work? It's something else that I did too that was I would be interested in getting your take on this is I started to estimate how long things would take me. And then I would actually time them out to see how long they took me. And at the beginning of doing that, about 90% of the time, I had underestimated how long things were going to take. I was a classic. So, and that's why I would feel stress. I thought, because I would say, oh, this is going to take me 3 hours. It would really take me about 5 hours. And so I could appreciate that I'm trying to put 5 hours of work into, that's why it was stressful. So now I know, hey, this takes 5 hours. And just even knowing that, I don't even have to, I just know now how to, my plans sort of fall into place more intuitively too. Because now I know how long things take me.
Yeah, I never take a client's first schedule at face value when they create, okay, this is how I'd move through my day ideally. It's like, well, yes. Does it actually take that long or that short of time for your kids to all get in the vehicle and for you to finish everything? Well, on a good day. No. As soon as I hear on a good day, or ideally, no, those are trigger words. Right. Average or longest it's ever taken. You have to have the margin for that. Otherwise, again, you're always telling yourself, I'm behind. No, you aren't. You just didn't allow enough time.
And to have a strategy. So let's say you are running late, right? And like one of the things that I think is really interesting is like when you're in a store and a little kid is running around, right? And they feel like they might be running into you, but they haven't run into you at all. And I'm just like, I don't care at all. But the parents invariably say, watch where you're going, which I think is so interesting because I'm just like, how is a kid even supposed to know that? How is a kid even supposed to know all these things like spatially around them? And then I don't know. I just think that's very interesting. Is we sometimes like forget that kids are kids are kids. But I like the idea of having a strategy in place for when things go wrong. That also, because then it allows you to be. So what I would love for parents to do is when their child is running around, just like they don't have to, because I always feel like they set up the child, like it's very confusing for a little kid to be like, what are you even talking about? Like, she doesn't even seem mad. I just feel like, why couldn't you just sort of, I don't know. I bet I'm sure I did it when I was younger too, when my kids were little too. But I think it's so helpful to even anticipate a plan. So let's say, your kids fire up and you're going to be late, that now you have a strategy that you've thought about in advance, that now you have a tool in your toolkit that did not exist before because you really thought through that.
Yeah. My favorite one is just margin time. So, yes, you know exactly how long you actually take for everything, but go ahead and put a buffer in there. Have a buffer time period during the day just for all those little overruns.
Ooh,
so that you're not
buffer.
sitting there catching yourself cramming at the end of every day. And
Right.
then, it's great.
That is incredible. Okay, so Alyssa, tell me, who also goes by Alyssa Unbusy too, which I love. So the name of your business is Unbusy, and tell me, how can people get in touch with you if they want to? If people are listening and just saying, "Oh my God, my schedule, my life is so out of control, and this sounds exactly like what I need." How can people find out more about you?
You can go to yourunbusylife.com. We'll have free coaching calls, free resources for you. Or if you're more of a podcast listener, since you're listening to this show, go to the Unbusy Mom podcast. And we have twice weekly, really short, action packed episodes for you.
I love that. Nice. Alyssa Wolff, thank you so much for being on Curveball. I cannot wait. I will, the way that I look at my time and my time commitments will be forever changed because of this conversation. So thank you so much.
It was so much fun talking with you, Heather.
Thank you.